Hey everyone, my name is Josie, and welcome to my attempt at a Pokemon Let's Go Eevee Hardcore Nuzlocke. However, these games are objectively easy due to the terrible opponent movesets and affection mechanics, so in order to add some actual difficulty, I decided to only allow myself to use the worst possible Pokemon. To determine what were the worst possible Pokemon, I googled to find a Nuzlocke viability tier list for these games, but the only one I could find ranked Dragonite in D tier, so I decided to use this Pokemon Red and Blue tier list from NuzlockeUniversity.ca instead. Obviously this tier list does not translate exactly into Let's Go, but it was the best I could find. I decided to allow myself every Pokemon ranked below Raticate. This allows for a theoretical 34 encounters, and means I won't be forced to fight Brock with only a Beedrill. Obviously, I'll be following basic Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, which will be listed in the description, and with all that out of the way, let's get into the run. The game starts with me naming myself Funtime, as this was before I changed my name on YouTube, and my rival, a good trainer, who then broke into my room and dragged me out of my house like the socialite he is. I made my way over to the grass to meet Professor Oak, and catch the partner Eevee. Now while Eevee is technically a valid encounter because Flareon is, I decided the partner Eevee was too powerful for this run, so I boxed in favor of my real first encounter, a Rattata I named Humble. I should mention I was allowing myself to catch Pokemon that were banned in order to grind, so if you ever see a banned Pokemon in my decks, that's why. I used this to get Humble to level 5, as that is the level he would have been had he been an actual starter, and I gave Oak his parcel, after which Eevee hitched a ride on my head against my will. Then a good trainer showed up and challenged me to a battle. I actually would have lost here because Pikachu is fast and much stronger than Rattata, but luckily Humble managed to get a crit on the last possible turn, so I won. After that I made my way up through Viridian, catching Bacteria the Bellsprout and Apide the Kakuna. Upon entering Pewter, I immediately ran to challenge Brock, the weak rock-type trainer. So weak in fact, he swept my entire team because I was underleveled and overconfident. I made the executive decision to continue the run for my last save because nothing else of real importance happened and I didn't want to redo the entire last hour. In order to keep the integrity of the run though, I did re-catch every one of my Pokemon. For my second attempt, I catch comboed Pidgeys until Bacteria was level 10, and then she proceeded to sweep Brock with a triple growth boosted Vine Whips. After exiting the gym, Blue showed up, and after judging me for my terrible team building skills, he took a whiff of me and ran off. I made my way through Route 3, catching Abmam the Ekans. Entering Mount Moon gave me my first area with multiple options for encounters. 4 to be exact. Looking at the options, it became obvious to me which one I should pick. Onix sucks overall and would not help with Misty, and Graveler and Golbat can be found in other locations, so the best choice was actually Paris. Not to mention, this gave me a grass type that wasn't weak to Psychic. After carefully walking through the cave, I found a Paris. I named her Precious because I actually really love Paris.
Hi, Precious. Water fell on her head.
Oh no, she found a tiny mushroom! Good job, Precious! It's so cute! And while making my way through the cave, Apide evolved into Beedrill. I made my way to the Fossil Maniac, who got completely swept by Bacteria with a few growths, and because Omastar is banned, but Kabutops is not, I went with the Dome Fossil. Then Team Rocket jumped me, trying to steal the fossil I literally just got. Unfortunately, I forgot to heal, so both Bacteria and Humble were at half health when entering the battle. I ended up having Abmam spam Leer, while Apide fired off Twin Needles to take both Coughing and Ekans down. After exiting Mount Moon, I caught an extra Rattata. So now it's time I explain the change I made to the Hardcore Nuzlocke rules, specifically the Dupes Clause. In Pokemon Let's Go, there are in-game trades for the Alolan forms of Pokemon. So I decided to allow myself to catch a duplicate Pokemon to trade for an Alolan form of a Pokemon on the list of allowed Pokemon. After this, I ran into Good Trainer again, and he battled me out of panic. Humble took out his Pidgey, Apide his Oddish, and Bacteria his Pikachu. And if you didn't notice, I lost the footage for this battle. I made my way through the Nugget Bridge. Nothing really important happened here, but I got to use Precious for the first time, and that made me happy. On the other hand, the Zubat at the end could have killed something if Abman didn't leer it into oblivion. But then the Coughing came in, and I had to sack Abman to get a clean switch. Rest in peace, my little snaky friend. With Abman gone, the team lost one of its only good answers to tough Pokemon. But with 2 more encounters available, I was able to add CATV, the Meowth, and Kyuga, the Psyduck, to the team. I then helped Bill escape his furry fantasy gone wrong, and he gave me his ticket to the SSN ticket as thanks. After that, I headed into the battle with Misty. I led Precious, who put Psyduck to sleep and set up 3 growths before barely not KOing Psyduck. I tried to put Psyduck back to sleep to set up more growths, but it confused poor Precious, so I had to switch. I sent in Humble, who crunched to finish off Psyduck. Starmie came out and nearly OHKO'd Humble with a Scald before he hit a soft crunch. I switched out to Apide expecting a Swift, but they hit a soft Psy-Wave instead. So Apide managed to finish the Starmie with a few pin missiles after dodging a crit Scald. So that's Misty defeated, but these gyms need to stop being so difficult. I could have swept with Precious had I set up more growths instead of settling for 3, but at least she survived. After the gym, Eevee played detective and found this giant hole in the wall the police somehow missed. Then I caught a Jigglypuff I named Guitar. I added Guitar over CATV, who I dropped off at the daycare in case I ever needed her as a backup, but then my game crashed and I got sent back to before I beat Mystery. So, that's unfortunate. I paid my way back through everything I had already done. Nothing really interesting happened, and this time when I gave CATV to the daycare people, I made sure to save beforehand. You know, for safety. After that, a good trainer got uncomfortably close to me before I gave him the ticket to FurCon. Then I realized that the Alolan Rattata trade was in Cerulean City the whole time. So I ran back there and traded the extra Rattata I caught. I can't technically name the Alolan Pokemon, but I decided to refer to this new friend as Hubris. I made my way all the way to the Diglett's cave to catch my only possible encounter there. A Zubat I named Batrick. I threw Batrick on the team over Apide, as they both kind of serve the same role. Then I went to clear out the SSN to get some EXP for our new members, during which Humble evolved into Eradicate and Bacteria evolved into Weeping Bell. So that's a great power boost to my two most reliable Pokemon. Then it was time for another fight against a good trainer. His Pidgeotto was terrifying to my team that's fairly weak to flying, but Humble managed to strike it down with a few headbutts. I then tried to use Dig to take out Pikachu, but thanks to a few sand attacks from Pidgeotto and a super potion, it managed to nearly kill Humble without taking any damage. So I sent in Bacteria, who whittled it down with Vine Whips. Patrick then nearly took out the Oddish before being put to sleep. This put me in a sticky situation. I sent in Hubris, who just barely got the KO with a quick attack. If that quick attack hadn't KO'd, I would have lost one of the only dark types I could get in this run. That would be terrible. Afterwards, I helped the captain feel better, and in return, he taught Eevee to use Cut, allowing me to access the Lieutenant Surge gym. Entering the gym, I began to clear out the gym trainers for EXP. However, in doing so, I was using Hubris and forgot Pikachu learns Double Kick fairly early in this game. This death hurt a lot more than Abman's, as the Hubris would have been very helpful in the late game. Rest in peace, my little rat friend. After that, I just catch Combo Drowsy to get most of my team to level cap, during which Precious tried to evolve, but I'm not gonna let my little baby become a mindless zombie, so I obviously cancelled it. But I did let Batrick evolve into Golbat. Lieutenant Surge was the first gym leader who didn't really give me any trouble. Humble took out both his Voltorb and Magnemite with Digs, and Precious put his Raichu to sleep before taking it down with 2 Leech Lives. Easy badge 3. Surge also gave me the TM for Thunderbolt, which would be great if only there were any electric types available to me. After a bunch of useless stuff, I made my way through routes 9 and 10, catching Dungeness the Krabby. Entering Rock Tunnel, much like Mount Moon, I had a number of possible encounters. Once again, Onix and Geodude available to me, but I also have Kangaskhan, Cubone, and Machop. Of these options, I felt Geodude made the most sense, but I didn't even name this thing and I never used it. Yeah, beyond this point I won't be mentioning any encounters I didn't use, so you're welcome. Unfortunately, as I was clearing my way through trainers, this Ace Trainer's Kadabra nearly swept my entire team. I managed to take it out with Humble, but I needed a sack guitar to get rid of confusion. After that, I made my way to Lavender Town, where I decided to go fight a good trainer so I could get a Cubone. His team hasn't really changed, so there's no reason really to cover this battle, but I forgot you need the Sylph Scope to find Wild Cubone in Pokemon Tower, so I left to make my way to Celadon City, a raid Team Rocket's hideout. Also, I just have to mention how I love this segment where you control a partner Pokemon to get the key card. I think it would be really cool if there were more things like this in the game. Before I go and take on Giovanni, I had to beat Jesse and James again, and I drastically underestimated this fight. I was only able to win Deathless because of good confusion and affection luck. Then I also had to fight Archer. However, after the close calls of the previous battle, I decided to head back to the route where I could catch a Porygon I named Model. Porygon without download or evolutions is worse than Parasect, so it would work as death fodder if needed. After that, I grinded the main team up to level 30 by catch combing Pidgeottos, and I went to take on Erica so as to not accidentally overleveled. I showed this lady at the front Precious, and she too fell in love with his lovable little mushroom crab. I led Precious for Erica and had her set up to one-shot Tangela. Then I sent in Batrick to one-shot Weepinbell and 3-shot Vileplume. leading to another Deathless Gym Badge. I returned to catch combing Pajados, finding this diseased one, until Cayuga evolved into Golduck. I also ran over to Saffron City to get the TM for Psychic. I headed back to the basement of the game corner to take on Archie. I led Humble to his Weezing with hard digs, but after 2 Sludge Bombs I had to switch. Now you may have noticed that I've had Model following me ever since I first caught them. This was because I planned to use them as a clean switch in this fight. However, if they could live a hit from Weezing, they would be able to fire back with a Psychic. So I wanted to see if they could get the Affection survive on 1 HP. Unfortunately they don't, so they're just a free switch. Cayuga came out and he took out both Weezing and Golbat with Psychics. Next up was Giovanni. I led Cayuga to try and get the burn with Scald, but he didn't. I sent in Humble, who hit a hard Hyper Fang that got it to the red, and then I switched to Bantrick, who finished it off with a U-turn, allowing me to send in Bacteria for free on Rhyhorn. She's easily able to take a Mega Horn and obliterate the Rhino with 2 Razor Leafs. Giovanni gave me the Sylph Scope, which allowed me to return to the Pokemon Tower and catch a Cubone I named Ghost. I used Ghost to clear all the Spirit Ladies, and then Cubone makes me cry. Not because of the story, but because it chose to go with a good trader instead of me! I prepared to fight the Rocket Grunts on the top floor, but I actually forgot that you fight Jesse and James instead, so I almost went in with the wrong Pokemon. I led Ghost and Cayuga. I have Ghost Dig and Cayuga uses Psychic, but Ghost nearly died. But because I went for a Dig, she would be safe the next turn. Cayuga took both hits from Arbok and Weezing, and then I switched out Ghost for Patrick. I finished off Weezing with Psychic. Ghost evolved after the battle, so that's a neat. Afterwards, Mr. Fuji gave me the Pokeflute as thanks for settling Marowak's spirit. This opened up a majority of the map, and allowed me to get a bunch of the best encounters this round. I headed west of Celadon to run off a Snorlax there, and then I made my way to the Cycling Road. This area is the only place in the game where I can get Ponyta and Eevee. I decided to go with Eevee because Flareon's BST is higher than Rapidash's, and named him Fresh, and immediately evolved him with a Firestone I picked up a while ago. I was gonna be stuck with Ember until I got the Flamethrower TM and Silphco. But there were still a lot of Pokemon I planned to go catch. I made my way down to Fuchsia to get access to Surf, and then I headed east to Route 15 to try to catch a Pinsir. But I looked down for a minute and a Venomoth ran into me, so I went to Route 14 to find one. I eventually found one and named him Scarab. He actually had an adamant nature, so he would be pretty useful. Also, while hunting for Pinsir, Bacteria learned Poison Jab, so I evolved her into Victory Bell, because she learns nothing else through level up. After that, I caught Butch the Poliwag, Bronze the Goldeen, Blaster the Horsey, an unnamed Farfetch, Batel the Tangela, and I revived the Dome Fossil into Knives the Kabuto. Now it was time to take on Silphco, but before that I had to take on Blue. I did Scarab and Knives for this fight, as Scarab can obliterate Blue's lead Executor with a stab 4x super effective X-Scissor, and then Blue sent in Charizard. Knives has a 4x super effective Rock move, but because he was revived at the level cap, I couldn't evolve him into Kabutops, meaning he couldn't take 2 hits from Charizard. Luckily, Charizard missed the overheat on the switch-in, allowing Knives to tank an Air Slash and fire back with a Rock Slide, destroying the dumb dragon. Ghost and Scarab cleared through the rest of the Rocket Grunts and Silphco easily. Then Archie challenged me and a good trainer to a double battle. I led Ghost so Archie's Electrode would use Self-Destruct for turn 1, which Ghost could tank. Then I used Dig into Archie's slot to get good damage off on Weezing. I had to switch due to Ghost getting badly poisoned, but on the turn I switched Cayuga in, neither Weezing or Muck attacked, allowing me to finish Weezing off with a Psychic next turn. I did get badly poisoned, but Cayuga gets rid of it with Affection a few turns later. I figured Raichu would try to electrocute the Golbat, but instead it tried to quick attack Muck, allowing Golbat to hit Cayuga. I went for Surf, hoping to hit Muck to finish it off, but no dice. The next turn, I Psychic into Golbat to finish it, as Raichu misses another quick attack and gets badly poisoned. I tried to disable Muck's Toxic, but it went for Protect. This fight is really annoying so far. Then I just finished it with a Psychic though, so that's nice. Last up was Raticate, who a good trainer took out with his Raichu and Pidgeot. I forgot that you had to battle Jesse and James again before Giovanni, but they were kind of a wash, much like Giovanni himself. As thanks for saving his whole company, the CEO of Silphco gave me a Master Ball, which I definitely did not waste on something stupid. Now it was time to take on Koga and Sabrina. However, as they both have the same level cap, and will require 2 completely different strategies, I decided to grind up 2 separate teams for them. So it was time to grind. But while doing so, I accidentally ran into a trainer with a party of humble and mostly unused Pokemon, so I had to sack the unnamed Farfetch to his dojo. I wasn't really planning on using Farfetch'd, so it didn't really matter, but a death is a death, so I thought I'd mention it. After a few hours of grinding, here is the team for Koga, and here is the team for Sabrina. They're not all at the level cap, because I still need to clear out the gym trainers for both gyms, but they should be good for the gym leaders. Up first was Koga. I led Batrick, who I taught Protect, to try to bait out Weezing's Self-Destruct, but after a few turns of Protects and Flies, it still hadn't used it. So I considered just switching, but I went for one last Fly, and then it ended up exploding. So I got lucky there. Koga sent in Venomoth next, who protected the Fly, and as it can just protect all my Flies, I switched in Fresh, who failed to melt the bug with a flamethrower. I then switched in Blaster, but he nearly died on switching, so I sent Batrick back in. I used Fly as it protected, so I was able to hit it the next turn and finish off Venomoth. Koga sent in Golbat next, so I U-turned out to Cayuga, who got badly poisoned, and then failed to one-shot the Golbat in return. I knew the Golbat would protect, so I just hit Surf to avoid wasting Psychic PP, and then Cayuga shook off the poison. Golbat went for the double protect and failed, and then fell to Psychic. Last for Koga is Muck, but Cayuga just 3-shot it with Psychics. And that's Koga defeated. Despite the level cap being 44, Sabrina requires a Pokemon to be at least level 45 to enter, so I just used the rare candy on Knives so he evolved into Kabutops and then boxed him after being let into the gym. Going into Sabrina, I led my starter, Humble. Humble's last job is to weaken Mr. Mime to a point where Brick Break from Ghost could kill it. Unfortunately, a Psychic from Mr. Mime deals too much damage for him to spin, so I switched in Dungeness, who took a hit, and then used Protect to stall out another turn of Reflect. Then I sent in Bronze, who took a hit better, as Reflect falls. Bronze then managed to take out Mr. Mime with 2 Mega Horns. Slowbro came out next, and I switched to Patel, who nearly died to a Psychic. I decided to sack Patel in order to paralyze Slowbro, then I sent in Scarab, who after 2 Sword Dances obliterated Slowbro and Jinx, although he did take too much damage due to a Lovely Kiss from Jinx. I had to sack something to get Ghost in for free to maybe kill, and because I need Dungeness and Bronze for both Blaine and Giovanni, I decided I had to sack Humble. I sent him in my starter to fulfill his true final mission, and he went down. I sent in Ghost, who just barely missed out on the kill with a Boomerang. I thought I'd have to let her die too, but she managed to hold on with Affection to finish the Alakazam with one more Boomerang. Sabrina is done, but we still lost 2 brave souls in that battle, one of which carried us through the journey since the beginning. The rest of this run is greatly indebted to the sacrifices of Humble the Raticate. Before going to Challenge Blame, I made my way to the Seafoam Islands, narrowly avoided seals, and made my way to the water to find a Shelder, which I definitely did not waste a Master Ball on. I named her Olympia, and I immediately evolved her into Cloyster and prepared my team for Blaine. I plan to use all my water-type encounters for both Blaine and Giovanni in order to protect all the other Pokemon I've gotten. After grabbing the key to the gym, I made my way into Blaine's gym below the level cap, as the team of Water-type should have no problem against the Fire-type gym leader. I led Dungeness, who obliterated the Magmar with a Crab Hammer. Arcanine came out next, who I hit with a Crab Hammer to leave him on a Sliver, and then he fired back with a strong Outrage. Switched in Olympia to tank an Outrage with a huge defense, and Arcanine became confused. I went for Protect to see if Arcanine would hit it himself, but he didn't. I sent in Knives as the Arcanine was going for a Flare Blitz, but it just hit itself in confusion and went down. Neither of Blaine's remaining Pokemon could hit Knives for non-resisted damage, so I just used him to sweep the rest of Blaine's team. With Blaine done, all that was left was Giovanni. After a bunch of useless story stuff, Giovanni finally returned to his gym. A lot of Pokemon in this gym know one-hit KO moves, like Fisher and Horndra. I managed to make it through the puzzle made for children deathless though, and so I entered the fight with Giovanni. I led Butch, who could take a hit from Dugtrio, and Oko with a Waterfall. Nidoqueen then came in, and I needed to switch to Olympia, who took an Earthquake. I then fired off an Ice Beam that did about a third. I switched in Blaster to get a clean switch, so rest in peace my little seahorse. I sent Dungeness in, who took another Earthquake and then obliterated Nidoqueen with a Crab Hammer. Next was Nidoking. I needed another clean switch, so I decided to see if Dungeness could get Crab Hammer off, but unfortunately he couldn't take an Earthquake, so he also fell. I put Bacteria on the team over Knives, as Knives is weak to ground, and she managed to paralyze Nidoking. This gave me the chance to send in Cayuga, who managed to finish off Nidoking with 2 Surfs. For Rhydon, I sent in Butch as a clean switch, but she actually managed to live with Affection twice, so she lived. This may seem cheap, but I would have been able to finish Rhydon with my remaining Pokemon anyway, and I don't use Butch again after this, so this just means she gets delivered in retirement in the box. Before I could go to Victory Road, a good trainer challenged me to a battle, but nothing of note happened, so I'll skip it to not ruin the hype for the finale. Nothing interesting happened in Victory Road either. I could have gone and encounter here, but I didn't really need it, so it was time to head into the Pokemon League. Now, in these games, you are actually able to change your team in between battles, but I figured that would make this Elite Four even easier, so I decided to stick to one team of 6. That team being Bacteria the Victory Bell, Batrick the Golbat, Cayuga the Golduck, Ghost the Marowak, Knives the Kabutops, and Olympia the Cloyster. I considered bringing Scarab the Pinsir, but I decided to bring Olympia instead, as Knives covers most of what Scarab could do anyways, and Olympia adds more bulk to the team that can make switching easier. Decided you go in around level 52 instead of level cap at 55, as to make it a bit more difficult. With all that out of the way, it was time to take on the Elite Four. First up was Lorelei. She led Dugong, who Knives took out with 2 Brick Breaks. Then came in Cloyster, who is a physical wall and would not go down easily to any of Knives' moves. Switched in Bacteria and tried to paralyze it, but I missed and Ice Beam did way too much damage. So I just O-coded the next turn with a Mega Drain. Jinx came in and I switched back to Knives, who took her out with 2 X-Scissors. Next was Lapras, so I switched back to Bacteria, who barely lived a Hydro Pump. Then I paralyzed the turtle and proceeded to get extremely lucky with Affection, while setting up 2 growths. Bacteria then O-coded both Lapras and Slowbro with Mega Drains. Next was Bruno, whose lead Onix got O-coded by Surf from Cayuga. Next was Hitmonchan, who only knew the Elemental Punches. I pivoted between Ghost and Olympia to stall him out of his Thunder Punch PP. After he ran out of Thunder Punches, I switched back to Cayuga, who 2-shot Hitmonchan with Psychics. Then Poliwrath came in, so I switched to Bacteria on a Superpower. She then proceeded to miss 3 Stun Spores, but she could tank hits pretty well thanks to its eventual -5 attack from the superpowers. After she managed to finally paralyze it, Bacteria set up to +3 growths and then O-coded Poliwrath. She did get paralyzed by a Body Slam, but she Affection healed it as Machamp came in. Either Machamp or Hitmonlee could deal good damage to Bacteria, so she swept both of them with Mega Drains as well. Next was Agatha and her poison types. I led Knives, who I taught Dig, who was able to hit Arbok hard before he got paralyzed, but he broke through and finished Arbok off with a Waterfall. Then she sent in Weezing, so I switched to Bacteria on the Thunderbolt. Then she paralyzed it and did a little bit of chip with a Sludge Bomb. Afterwards I sent Knives back in so I could pivot back into Ghost, but she switched to Golbat, which I didn't expect. I hit it hard with a Rock Slide and then switched to Olympia. She took a Crunch and an Air Slash and then finished the Golbat with an Ice Beam. Weezing came back, so I switched Ghost in on a Thunderbolt. I got Ghost to +2 with a Sword Stance, and then thanks to the chip damage from Bacteria, she finished off the Weezing with an Earthquake. Agatha then sent in the first Gengar to burn Ghost, but thanks to the Sword Stance it didn't matter, and Ghost was able to OHKO both Gengar with Earthquakes. Last on the chopping block was Lance, the Flying type Master. He led a Seadra for some reason, so I just had Bacteria do her thing and drain the Seahorse of its life force. Aerodactyl was next, but it didn't know a flying move, so after a few turns of Mega Drains, Lance switched to Dragonite. I stayed in to paralyze it as Bacteria barely lived an Outrage. Then I switched in Olympia, who also barely took an Outrage. I wasted a turn using Protect, and Dragonite did hit itself. Then I outsped it due to the paralysis and finished it with an Ice Beam. Next was Gyarados, so I switched Cayuga in on a Hyper Beam, and then proceeded to whittle it down to just below half before switching to Knives on another Hyper Beam. Knives finished the Gyarados with a Rock Slide. Aerodactyl came back out next, so I pivoted to Batrick, who was immune to the Earthquake, and then into Ghost, who resists the Rock Slide. Ghost then tanked a Hyper Beam and finished the Aerodactyl with 2 Brick Breaks. Last for Lance was Charizard, who can't really hurt Knives, so I sent him in and he obliterated the Charizard with a quad effective Rock Slide. Just like that, the Elite Four is down, with 0 deaths I might add. The last challenge is the battle against none other than a good trainer. One final battle to avenge the lives of all those who have perished on the journey up till now. He leads his Mega Pidgeot and I lead Knives. This thing can't really hit Knives, so he's able to tank an Air Slash and fire back with a Rock Slide. He switches out to Marowak, and then I switch to Cayuga, who leaves Marowak on a sliver with a Surf. A good trainer then heals Marowak, who tanks another Surf, then goes down the next turn. Vileplume is up next, so Batrick came in, as Vileplume charged a Solar Beam. Originally, I was going to have Batrick use Fly to avoid the Solar Beam, but I forgot to reteach him Fly, so he just fired off an Air Slash that flinched, and then did it again, and again. Raichu is next, but it can't really do anything to Ghost. It just obliterated them. Next is Slowbro, which I really don't have an answer for. I sent in Bacteria on the incoming Surf, and I fired off a Mega Drain as Slowbro set up a Light Screen. The Light Screen causes him to barely live the next Mega Drain, and he fired back with a Psychic that obliterated Bacteria. So much for a deathless lead. Rest well, Bacteria. You deserve it. I send Batrick to finish off Slowbro with a U-turn, but a good trainer healed. I sent Knives back in, who dealt some good damage with a Leech Life, but Surf deals more than I heal back. Another Leech Life got me to a point where I lived the incoming Psychic with 1 HP without affection. And Knives managed to finish the Slowbro with another Leech Life. Rapidash came in, so I switched in Olympia, who tanked a Fire Blitz pretty well, but fell just short of the KO. I switched back in Batrick, who barely lived Flare Blitz, but the recoil finished Rapidash off. Last off was the Mega Pidgeot, so I send in Kavga, who lived in Air Slash and fired back with an Ice Beam that finishes the bird. And with that, I've beaten the Pokemon Let's Go Eevee Hardcore Nuzlocke using only low-tier Pokemon. Couldn't have done it without all those who helped along the way. Not just these 6 who made it to the Hall of Fame, but to all the Pokemon I caught and used throughout this journey. All those who sacrificed themselves in battle, and those who gave it their all just to see us get a little bit further each time. And thank you for watching! If you enjoyed this video, consider subscribing, as I really enjoyed this playthrough and want to do something similar in the future. Although, maybe not Nuzlocke, because I just personally don't enjoy them that much. Anyways, I hope you all have an amazing day, and always remember to have a fun time.